And we're live, I believe. Hi everyone. If you are here on Crowdcast, say hi in the chat. And we are live with our very first office hours, I believe. We are streaming live on Facebook as well. And yeah, how are you today, Michael?
I'm great, thanks. Looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. I think just being able to answer questions and stuff, and we have a very special guest that I'm very looking forward to having a good conversation with.
Yes, we do. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off. I'm Joanne from GoWP. I'm the marketing manager over here. And welcome today to today's office hours, our first office hours. And our topic today is how a copywriter can impact growth in your agency with Michael Short. And we also have a very special guest who's Adrian Toby from groundhog.io. I want to briefly talk about GoWP and GoWP's office hours. So at GoWP, we create happiness for digital agencies and help them become more profitable. Whether you're looking to grow your team with a developer, a copywriter that we're going to talk about that today, designer, or a project manager, or you're just interested in outsourcing services and white labeling so you can focus on growth, we've got you covered. So we've also built a digital agency owners community. It's an active community of over 1,900 agency owners where we hold regular group calls, webinars, office hours like this one, and mastermind sessions. So you can grow your agency today with GoWP. And I will be dropping the link to our uh, community in the chat. Hey, folks. Hey, I see some people are active in the chat. Hey, Rob. There's people from Toronto. Hey, Beth. Hey, Emily. It's so good to see everyone. Read everyone. So, what is office hours? So, today we are focusing on talking about GoWP's services and discussing how we use them to drive growth. This is specific, strategic implementations you can do in your agency and use cases that we all struggle with, and essentially what we're aiming to put here is what those solutions can be. So, for example, today we are tackling content and how people can learn how having a copywriter on your team can alleviate any growth related headaches in your business. So, we're going to talk about specific ways a copywriter can impact your business KPIs, as well as strategies for effectively incorporating a copywriter onto your team without breaking your budget. That's very important. So, a couple of things that what we'll cover today: defining your content strategy. So, when we say defining your content strategy, it means how you can get better results with a copywriter by having a content strategy defined in your agency. Other ways a copywriter can contribute to your growth. So landing pages, lead magnets, blog posts, etc. Other things that we are going to talk about is how GoWP services, like our dedicated copywriters, can scale growth, and best practices with managing the relationship with an outsourced copywriters and running a remote team. All right, Michael,
All
welcome.
right.
That was a. I
That
feel
was a
like I'm a
mouthful.
little winded. I gotta breathe for a moment. Got a little bit of tunnel vision there.
No worries. So I'm excited to be on this. This is our first one, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that comes from it and answering any questions that anyone has. For those that don't know who I am, I'm Michael Short from GoWP. I'm a senior account manager here. So if you ever have any questions and you just want to reach out to me, even like there's no pressure at all. Just, if you want to have a conversation about strategy, you just want to talk about like how it might fit one of our dedicated, whether it's developer, copywriters, designers, so forth, how it might fit your team, just reach out to me. And I'm not going to put you under the gun or make you feel pressured. It's just a conversation. So at any time, you can reach out to me either on Facebook if we're friends, or you can go to mike@gowp.com. Um, is my email. So there's that. Now, what I'm looking forward to more so than anything is bringing on our guest, Adrian Toby, who many of you may know is from groundhog.io, which is a plugin that's for building out a CRM platform, and it does a lot of great things. And he's reached out to us, or I reached out to him. We'll talk about that and how it all happened, but he's using our service for our copywriters, and I'm excited to just kind of talk about his experience, how it's helped him and his business, and what his plans for the future are for it as well, and just all that good stuff. And again, answer any questions that you might have in relation to any and all of that. So without further ado, let's bring on Adrian himself. And
all right. Just real quick, I'm going to get off camera, and I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, just pop them on the Ask a Question toggle here on Crowdcast. And if you have any questions over on the Facebook side, those will get to me some way or another. So ask your questions, and you can ask questions in the chat as well. I could populate those as well in the Ask a Question toggle over here at Crowdcast. And I've Toby, Adrian, there you go. Toby, sorry for that. Welcome, Adrian.
Hi.
There he is. Very cool. So this is Adrian. Adrian, before we even get him started, I want to introduce him officially, because this is not our first rodeo. Him and I have been on several of these sort of calls in the past, maybe not necessarily office hours with GoWP, but him and I have been on these chats and conversations. So Adrian is a very well-versed WordPress player in the game. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's been around agencies and pretty much, I'm guessing, your entire life, because your family has an agency that you worked with, and this still exists, correct? And so what he brings to the table was immense value, immense knowledge, and I'm excited to have him on this show, our first one, with us. So welcome, Adrian. Thank you for being here.
No problem. Happy to be here. Hope I can help people.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, man. So I guess we'll just go into it like more of like an interview type style to begin with. Find out a little more about you. If you can, introduce yourself in a more proper way than I even did, and then we'll get into how you're using GoWP at the moment.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. For those of you who do not know me, I am the founder of a WordPress plugin company called Groundhog, as well as a few other WordPress plugins. I've been working with agencies for a very long time. I started back in, I want to say 2015, when I was going to university at the University of Toronto. I was working with my family's agency part-time, in that we helped hundreds of small businesses and other agencies in North America, Canada, the United States. And during that time, I worked a lot with many of the tools that you probably use and are probably familiar with. I was more on the development and technical and CRM side, and hence why today my organization primarily focuses on providing CRM and marketing automation services for other small businesses. But throughout that time and period, I identified a number of consistent and persistent problems that not only our agency, but other agencies face. And over the last 3.5 years of building Groundhog, one of my primary goals has been to find ways to solve those consistent problems and introduce products and services that improve agency efficiency, reduce or increase margins, reduce overhead, and just generally provide a better experience for being an agency. Because, as I'm sure many of you know, it's a tough gig sometimes. And that's why I don't particularly do it anymore. Today, I run a software company, but 30% of our customers are agencies. So I'm pretty well versed, and we just hosted Groundhog Day, where we had an entire agency track, and Michael, you came in and spoke, and that was awesome. And I bet people loved that session. I got a lot of actually emails and great feedback following it. So I care deeply about the agency struggle, and I hope I can provide a little bit of value today.
Awesome, man. So tell us a little bit about your experience with, and we're going to talk specific now about like content writing and where you need it with the CRM type platform, and where you need it in your business specifically as well. Let's talk about like that a little bit.
Yeah. So we started about a month and a half ago, like mid-December of last year. Well, I guess that's 2 months ago, because we're nearing halfway through Feb. So we started then, and pretty much every single week I've had at least 3 probably articles that have been written by the copywriter, who's very good on her own. She goes out and she finds topics. Basically, what my responsibility was, I created customer profiles that I wanted to directly speak to. So nonprofits, agencies, obviously, small businesses, e-commerce sites, and the various different subsections of those, and the solutions that we provide and the problems that we solve. Like, so we solve marketing automation problems, CRM problems. We solve efficiency problems in small businesses. Basically, and then from that, you were able to create a map of, okay, so we need a topic for agency and marketing automation, or agency and CRM, or agency and sales pipeline, or nonprofit and sales pipeline. And then you kind of just like create this matrix of topics. And then our copywriter creates a title, and then basically goes out and does a quick couple Googles for some inspiration to that. And that's got stuff over to me. I edit it, put some calls to action in it, link it to the various different resources that we have, and publish. And that's been a fairly straightforward and easy process so far. The way that we're using the content is it's still early. A lot of this content isn't necessarily like showing up primary one in search results. And frankly, not a whole ton of like our articles do rank well in search results. Like like if you search for it took us a while just to get groundhog to stop getting auto-corrected in Google to the animal. Like we rank for keywords like WordPress CRM or WordPress marketing automation and stuff like that. But the kind of like the long tail keywords, we still have a lot of work to do in order to get in those search rankings. But that doesn't really matter to me, because the way that we use the content and the way that we leverage it is on the back end. We get a ton of leads. We're pretty good at list building, like something that I've done for a very, very long time. And depending on what like your conversion rate is, if you convert like 10% on the front end, right, that means you have 90% of those leads that didn't take immediate action. So what do you do with those people, right? And the content that has been written has been wonderful for being able to tack it on to what we in the biz call long-term nurture, right? So basically you have like 3-4 days to get someone to take action, like sign up for a trial or buy the thing outright or whatever. And if in those 4 days, like nothing happens, then we stick them into something called long-term nurture, which sends them or touches base with them once every 3, 4, 5 days, maybe once a week, depending on how much content you have and how far you want to spread out the communication. But it speaks to them on a segmented level. So how I mentioned was we have like this matrix of topics we have nonprofit to marketing automation and agency to CRM and blah, blah, blah. When we're doing our lead intake, we have questions, or we ask questions to help identify what kind of person that lead is. Are they an agency? Are they a nonprofit? Are they a small business? Are they an e-commerce site? Are they a consultant? Are they a speaker? Like, who are you? And then what we can do in the long-term nurtures, because we have all these different topics, we tag them accordingly, and then we're able to send them specific topics to their particular needs and interests, so that we're not kind of just like shouting to the void. We're saying, hey, we understand that this is where you are right now. We know what other CRMs you're using, and those are the problems with those CRMs, and these are the solutions that we have, and here's an article detailing exactly how you can leverage that solution. And that is quite effective as a selling on the back end strategy. So we also have, in addition to that, as they're going through that sort of onboarding process, we're collecting that data and segmenting them into those buckets. We have basically a thank you landing page that says like, here's what you can do next, or here are some articles to help you get started. And again, it's all of those tagged articles for their specific niche ready for them to grab, so they don't have to go look for it. People hate looking for stuff. Right? You don't want to like make them like go to the blog and just find what you need. Like that's not what we in the biz, what as a business which prides itself on helping other businesses improve their customer journey, that's not a nice customer experience or customer journey. So we basically just deliver what it is that we think they would benefit from and what they need without them asking for it, in order to create and elicit some sort of positive purchasing response.
Nice. So in addition to the actual articles that you're sending them, is she being Jennifer, by the way, for those, I don't think we mentioned her name, is Jennifer writing the actual sequences themselves, the emails that are going out to the
Well,
nurture?
no, we have that automated with our product.
And then, like, did she write the original automated sequences, or no, you already had that in place?
No, I did that.
Okay.
It's so she goes in the website, she puts the articles there. I then go review. I do my,
Okay.
I'm still the marketing guy, right? So I go in and I add in my CTA and I link to the various different resources, and hopefully we get to a point where she's a lot more product efficient, and we have a fairly sophisticated product, and we do a lot. Like, I don't necessarily expect that like someone coming in who's brand new has the same amount of product knowledge as the person who built the product in the first place.
Right.
So I still have to go in and I add the screenshots and I link to the help articles that are relevant or the YouTube videos that are relevant, and the CTA to whatever I believe to be the appropriate CTA for that particular article. CTA being call to action for anyone not familiar with the lingo. And then we have a funnel. Our long-term nurture automation literally just does an infinite loop and sends them a different article relating to their niche every single time. Once a week, once or twice a week, whatever it is.
Very cool. Now, tell me a little bit how, because yours is so sophisticated and it's very specific, how long did it take her to, I mean, I'm not even assuming that she's actually up to speed quite yet, even because it's only been 2 months, roughly. But would you say that she was able to just kind of jump in there with the references that you've given her and able to get started pretty quickly? Or do you feel like you're doing a lot of editing and going back and...
Once we got the topic matrix kind of sorted out, the speed of articles increased. I mean, companies have a voice and a tone, right? And I go in and I edit the tone a little bit, but it's getting closer every single time. And again, it still hasn't been that long in the grand scheme of things. And overall, like, I mean, I'm a busy person. There's absolutely no way that I would have the time to like go do all the research and compile the points and do that. So just had like for that effort to just be demoted to go in, change the tone a bit, add a CTAs and a couple screenshots is awesome. Like there's a huge disparity in the amount of time that I have to invest in that process.
Yeah. How did you do it before you had Jennifer working with you?
We didn't. Like, I would write, and I'm the kind of writer, and I'm not a great copywriter when it comes to like articles. If you want me to throw a landing page together, I feel like I can do a pretty good job. Or like or if I want people to come to my session at a WordCamp, I think I can fill the room. But when it comes to like, all right, well, I need to take this one topic and I need to put 250 words together for it in something that I like understand implicitly without having to describe it, right? That's a little bit more difficult to me. So the kind of articles that I usually write are like these super long like essays about how to get from point A to point B for like a specific problem, like a tutorial is really kind of like where my happy place for writing is. But for some of these sort of like top of funnel pieces, right? And that's really what the value is from, or the value that I've been getting is top of funnel, right? And again, to just break that down for those of you who might not understand that lingo, whenever you have the customer journey and you're attracting leads and you're attracting people, you get people at different stages. You get people who are the top of the funnel, which means that they are problem aware, but not necessarily solution aware. And then you get the middle of the funnel where people are solution and problem aware. And then you get the bottom of the funnel where people are highly invested in the outcome with you. And that's when you get customers, right? But Jennifer has been really great at the whole like top of funnel stuff, which is stuff that I don't enjoy writing because I find it boring, because I'm not highly invested in that because that's not where I spend the majority of my day. I spend most of my day in mid funnel, bottom of funnel. So it's nice to be able to have someone who absolutely is like, that's where they spend their time. That's the kind of content that they know how to write. That's where they know how to do their research. And then we can use that top of funnel stuff to be able to send that to leads in order to move people from that top of funnel to mid funnel. And that's really what the purpose of these articles are. The purpose of these articles is to move someone from that top of funnel to the mid funnel, where we can then send them some more involved educational material, some more involved indoctrination, and get them to the checkout page.
Nice. Yeah. How much effort do you have to put in to give her the brief that you want for the top of the funnel articles? Or is she able now, 2 months in, able to kind of find those herself based off of what you've done in the past?
I don't really have. I mean, I can go and say, hey, I really want this one article, but for the most part, she just sends it to me and then I edit them.
Nice. Yeah. So it's just review and publish, huh? Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Very nice. In terms of her writing abilities, where would you say it stacks up? Like, I'm not going to give you a scale 1 to 10 type of thing, but do you feel like she's come on and been able to just understand and write clearly and that sort of thing? Or do you feel like, because I know for me personally, I've had experiences with copywriters where like the words were there and they were the right words, they just weren't in the right order. They just didn't make sense. They didn't flow properly. Did you have that sense with her at all during your experience so far?
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be true for any new person that comes on. It's like the first little while isn't going to be perfect. And again, companies have a voice and they have a tone, and you can't expect whoever comes on to immediately understand that. And that's compounded by the complexity, the difficulty, and the broadness of whatever product it is that you're offering. And again, like Groundhog does a lot of stuff, and we service a lot of people, and it took a couple weeks to get closer. And I mean, it's still not 100% there. I still have to go in and I have to do my thing, but it's certainly a lot better. And it's gotten.
Do you happen to have a brand tone and voice document for Jennifer, or you kind of go based off your own just edits?
No, and that's certainly something that we would probably benefit from. We don't, because it's my voice, really.
Yeah.
Like as sort of like the public face of the organization, like my face is pretty much plastered everywhere. It's sort of like my voice, and I don't expect her to like replicate that. That would be an unrealistic expectation, but we can get close. And so I still go in and I edit some stuff, but it's improving every article. She goes back, like I edit them, then she goes back and she reads them, and that's internalized, and then we do the next one. It's a little bit different, and yeah, it's a process.
Is part of your process, is she writing them inside of WordPress like as a draft, or is she doing it as a Google Doc? What is your process like?
It goes into a Google Doc first, because that has the nice like suggesting and editing tools. So I mean, the way that I'm working right now is she'll go in to the article, and then when I go and edit it, I do it all in the suggest tool. So I don't just edit the content, because I want her
to learn,
like the part of the learning process about improving the tone and the structure and the CTAs and all that, is that she goes back and she reads and internalizes those suggestions and the changes that I made. And so she goes and she approves all of them, and then that gets put into WordPress, and then she goes and puts that into WordPress as a draft. I do my finishing touches, publish it, add it to the long-term nurture, and then off to the races.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's similar to our experience with what we do. We use the Google Docs, and in the beginning, I think that's definitely important to have that suggestion tool so that they can learn from the changes that you're making and editing, as opposed to I could say with the copywriter that I have on my team, because for those that don't know, I actually have an agency that I still run and products as well. But our copywriter. In the beginning, I'd make those suggestions as well. And then now we got to a point where I just go and make the edits because it's just a matter, like, it's just as quick and he gets it close enough that it doesn't even, it's more time and effort to correct him on every little thing. And it's not that there's a lot, don't get me wrong. I'm not even trying to pretend like there's a lot of editing going on. Like I have had that experience in the past where now it's like so close to the way it needs to be. I just go make it, and it's just, it just makes it a lot easier. So yeah, so I don't know if we have any questions as of now. I can ask Joanne if she maybe has anything for us. We're about almost 30 minutes into the conversation. Looks like she's jumping on. There we go.
Whoops, I forgot I was on camera. Yeah, so this is such valuable information. It's so interesting to hear how you, Michael, as a agency owner and also working for GoWP, have this experience with copywriters, and you too, Adrian, as well. I do have a couple of questions. We do have a couple of questions in the question box. And yeah, let's just, I'm going to go ahead and start asking, and we can all answer them depending on how we see fit, how the experience fits to you, because the three of us use dedicated copywriters. So I find it so fascinating how we all use it in different ways. So the first question is, what are the best practices for working efficiently with a GoWP copywriter? What is something you've seen that have been best practices? For me, it has been having a very specific dedicated brief for each project. I have a lot of experience, working in advertising and working in startups where things have to go fast. So a brief has been very helpful to me. So having a brief that says, what should be the call to action, meta description must be included, alt text must be included, what are the images I need, what is the vibe of the article, and a couple of inspiration links, and the amount of words. So it's usually around 800 to 1200 words. And that usually, it helps me a lot have a more finished product. Product when I talk about content, because something similar to you, Adrian and Michael, how I see it is that the copywriter does 95% of the work. I only come in at that 5%. Which is that editing. I want to keep that editing as minimal as possible. Maybe, and I'm talking about things like very, very small, like probably the link doesn't open in a new tab. That's how small I'm talking about. So I want to spend the least amount of time. But I do understand that everyone has very different, practices. So what are some of yours?
Well, first, before I would like to just say that for those that don't know, Joanne, when she mentions that she uses a dedicated copywriter at GoWP, we actually, as we vet our copywriters, we put them on our team as if our team was the client, and we are a client, I guess, in a lot of ways. And so we actually go through the entire kickoff call process, everything as if, like every client would have to go through. So she works with them directly in the same capacity, and so that's where she's speaking from. As far as that's enough for me for now. I'll come back to it. I'm gonna let Adrian speak to it first, and then I'll come back to mine if you have anything.
I mean, as far as best practices go, my number one would probably be if they're new, that results aren't instant, and having realistic expectations.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a big one, because if you expect to be, or for content, especially new content with a new content strategy, to generate thousands and thousands of page views overnight, that's probably going to be disappointing. So realistic expectations are probably a good place to start. Definitely have a plan to leverage your content in numerous ways, right? Like if they're just in the blog, or you're just like posting content in the blog and no one's visiting the blog, then you're not really leveraging the full potential of that content. So are you sharing it in like social media channels? Are you sending it out by email? Like, are you using it to build your list? Are you sending it to your list? Are you adding it as part of your long-term nurture sequence, which you should absolutely have if you don't? Because if you're just doing for like an SEM play and getting organic traffic, it's a long play.
Mm-hmm.
And highly congested. And I'm not saying that it's not going to work. I'm just saying have realistic expectations, and content can be used in a variety of ways. And backing up your content with other resources will also be beneficial, like YouTube and video and those other sort of forms of content. All work together to make an educational customer experience that will lead someone from top of funnel to bottom of funnel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Adrian in terms of this like holistic content strategy, because if you're, yeah, I just want to like hammer down that messaging. If you're just putting on content on the blog and not repurposing it in all the different ways it can be reused, you are I think it's a little bit of a waste, no? A waste of efforts.
I've had that challenge in my experience in the past, like where I thought, oh, okay, I have a copywriter, I'm gonna write a bunch of articles, and think that if you build it, they will come, and that's never the case. You really have to use it in the holistic format that you're mentioning. One of the things that we didn't say much of yet, and it doesn't sound like you're using your content writer for it yet, Adrian, is lead magnets. I know you mentioned content as a whole. It's like you mentioned video, and you said content in general. So lead magnets is another way that you can utilize a content writer, and that's one of the ways that we have as well at my agency. So yeah, I don't know, for us, so there's different ways to approach it. So if you did want to hit the ground running, I'm going to put a plug in for some friends of ours, Matt and Mel. I don't know why I said Meg. Matt and Mel with Nurture Copy. They put together like a full-on briefs on what could be written on behalf of agencies. And so if that's something that you're not sure what you want written and you don't know how to write a proper brief, they have put together some cool tools for that. So that could help you give something to a content writer, a copywriter, to actually hit the ground running, in my opinion. Now, that's something that I did in the beginning stages, because that was something that I had purchased, and it worked out pretty well to get us up and going. But once you kind of work your way through that, obviously there's so much that you can have written for content. And I think, Adrian mentioned it, and this is what we're doing now too, is just finding other sources online as inspiration, and then using that inspiration to write it in your own voice, in your own tone, in your own perspective, is another way. Also, another way too is if you're writing on technical content, and this is something I know I mentioned to Adrian during the sales call, is that if you have like a technical product or something that that obviously your content writer is not going to really ever get to know, because they're not in your tools, using your tools and that sort of thing. They're content writers. That's what their job is to do like a Loom video or something similar to a Loom video, and really like demonstrate what it is that you want them to write about. And so that way they can understand it without having to fish their way through your platform or tools or whatever. And then you can actually, without having to write out a long brief. I mean, if you're going to write out a long brief, you may as well have written the article yourself. So at that point, but if you just do a quick Loom video, I don't think, take maybe 10, 15 minutes to have a proper video to get a good solid article from your writer. So those are different ways to use a writer and different things to use a writer for. That's how we.
Yeah, and another question that we have is about working synchronously. So what do you guys have any tips on working asynchronously? Struggle with that word, asynchronously. Is it better to work on the same schedule to give feedback, or do you prefer to work, for me personally, it's very much of I prefer to work asynchronously, because I can, wake up the next day and find a ton of work to review. So what about y'all?
Go ahead, Adrian.
I mean, for me, again, our writer is 2 hours a day. And so She writes the article. Usually it's one every couple days. And she sends it to me. I go in, I do my suggestions, and she works through those, and then it ends up in our drafts. And I find that that's a fairly good system for me because I'm a pretty busy guy. And I don't necessarily, like, depending on my schedule for that day, it's working async or working synchronously is not necessarily always an option. Depending if we're both on the schedule, I'll like say, hey, listen, I really want you to focus on this one area. And I can send her that message, and whether she sees it immediately or not is kind of, non-urgent. It's like she logs in the next morning and it's there, then it's there. The way that asynchronous work works is with clear expectations and setting those early. And I mean, most working with staff, working with clients, working with freelancers, working with people on Upwork, all success in those relationships comes down to setting expectations early. So that's like, hey, listen, when you log on in the morning, I want you to like go through these edits that I make the day before. And then it's like, okay, that's understood. So when they log on, just can look through the edits, and that's how it works. I've found that in the past that when I work asynchronously with developers and others, that if there's a lack of clear expectations and you kind of just let people to their own devices, that you don't always get the results that you want. And there's a school of thought that's like, if you give people a long enough if you give people a long leash, that they'll be able to work within the parameters that they're going to be the most efficient, because they work the way that they want to work. And while that may be true for some people, in a lot of cases, you're just giving them enough leash to hang themselves with it. And that is, that's a fairly old saying. I just certainly didn't make that up. But it is true. So having clear and realistic expectations, setting those early, having a defined schedule for your freelancers, for your writers, for your contractors, for your staff members, and aligning those to work within the way that you work as the project manager, operations manager, founder, CEO, whatever it is that your title. But having them in a work way that's best going to support you is really the ultimate way. And it works both ways. Sometimes you kind of have to adjust your schedule or the way that you work in order to better support the freelancer. But figuring that out early is probably better than figuring it out later, because then you're going to end up investing a lot of money and not getting the results that you want.
Very true.
Yeah. And Michael, can you speak a little bit on the whole relationship management aspect within a copywriter? Because I think what Adrian says is very important, specifically on creating the realistic expectations. And further down the line from there, how do you manage that relationship after setting those expectations? What are some of the best practices that we can see there?
That's a good question. Threw me on the spot on that one. So
Sorry.
No worries. So I'll answer the first question from my perspective, and then I'll try to come back to that one as well. So the way that I work is asynchronously as well. So because I work at GoWP for full time, my time for my agency is like left into the night and so forth. And so it works out well, because the shifts that I have with my content writer, I keep going back and forth, copywriter, content writer, whatever. And we also have a designer, and I have other people on my team, developers and so forth. And so everything is pretty much done at nighttime, usually while I'm sleeping. And so it works out well. I think we live in a great world where there's amazing tools out there that allow for this kind of relationship to take place, where, tools such as ClickUp, and we're using Plutio, things like that, where you can have conversations on particular projects and everyone is on the same page. And then we also use Slack so that everyone checks in at the end of their day, letting the entire team know what it was that they've managed to complete for that day. That way, if, for example, the content writer sees that the developer finished something, and then they know that he needs to get working on something to keep them busy, sort of thing. And it's worked out really well. In fact, in my situation, I actually have a content writer and a dedicated dev with GoWP, and content writer, dedicated, and designer. So the designer and content writer, they actually work. They both happen to be, and just worked out this way. I did not plan it, and I'm thankful that it worked out this way. But they happen to be in Spain, and so while I'm sleeping at night, the content writer is actually giving the projects to the designer to do. So as he finishes like a lead magnet, or he finishes a landing page, or whatever that is, he'll hand that right off to the designer, and also describe and explain what it is that we're looking for. So he acts as a project manager for me too when I in my absence, which is amazing. So things are getting done more synchronously behind the scenes, even though I'm asynchronous. Whatever, I'm not even trying to say the words, but you get what I'm saying. So that works. That's something that I didn't anticipate. We were using Dear Designer and Design Pickle prior to bringing on our dedicated designer, and it's just, for us, it was a bottleneck in the system because it required me going and grabbing screenshots, me going and whatever, like putting the project brief into their platform, where now they're like, our content writer is actually able to speak directly to the designer, and they have, if she has questions and screenshots, she has access to our platforms and stuff to do screenshots into our plugins or whatever. And so they're able to, between themselves, are able to do all of this without me being a bottleneck and like, oh man, that's something else I have to get done like after so it's so nice that things are moving along without my involvement.
Yes, because it makes all of the difference when they are working in your tools versus you working in their tools to get that external project, whatever it is that you need. So that 100%. I've also experienced that, the whole bottleneck situation of you having to go into the other tools. It's much. I find it a little bit more efficient when the outsourced services that we have are directly in our tools. And I do think that is one of the most valuable features, if you will, that we can enjoy of. Moving on to another question. We have another a AI related question in the chat. So has anyone used AI for content writing? Sites like niches.com with 3 S's, etc. Can it replace copywriters and we just edit the 5% to make it accurate?
I'll let Adrian, you have anything on that one? Have you tried AI before? No? Okay. You're muted.
You're muted.
No, I don't. I've never used it.
Yeah.
I don't plan on using it. There's a lot of hype about it. I don't know if that translates into results.
Sure.
Like the thing about AI is, like, again, and you're gonna have probably the same experience working with a copywriter early on, but like an AI could never learn your product, right? Like that's the difference. Like working with a copywriter, a person, they possess the ability to learn and understand and internalize things about your specific offering and your values and your mission and your core customer that an AI just simply, well, maybe they can, but I find it unlikely. Like it's so if you want to like have content that reflects your tone and your values and the way that you want to help people, it's probably going to be best to train a copywriter over time versus depend on AI. But, it also depends on, what's your time worth and how much you have to spend, right? An AI service is going to cost a lot less than a copywriter, but the results are going to be different. There's only really one way to find out.
Yeah, I can add to that. So as my agency, we have a set of plugins, WASP Pro, and we're getting ready to launch a new set of plugins called Rebrand Press. And in that, Bertha is going to be one of the plugins that we're launching it with. And so if those are familiar with Bertha.ai, it's a a product of Andrew Palmer and Vito Peleg. So together they came up with this, they used the technology that's the same technology apparently that is used on Jarvis and stuff. So I do think the technology has come a long ways. I have played with Bertha a little bit in the process of creating our rebrand plugin. So you can like name the robot, you can change the robot image, you can change the name of the plugin on your site and stuff like that for your clients to use it and whatnot. But in that process of doing that, we were actually having Joss, our copywriter, work with it, and so that he can write articles using it. And I think, to me, that if you use it together with the copywriter, you can get some phenomenal results. But it does require somebody knowing like the structure or the framework of how articles should be written and where how the story should be taken. Whereas, just plugging a few words and then expecting it to come up with everything that you need in the proper format and all that stuff is maybe not necessarily the best use. I mean, if that's all you have, it's better than nothing. But I think that with a content writer, a professional that can feed the system, because it still takes time. You still have to feed the system. Maybe you're not having to look at a blank page and come up with every single word, but with a content writer, they just can go. It's like a superpower for them. So I am trying to get Josh more or less to get used to using that as a tool to see if he can. And I'm going to say this now, and I even told him this, like he's already quick and gets a lot done and efficient. So it's not a lack of efficiency for why I would want him to do it. It's just like, if you can use a tool to enhance what you already have, then all the better. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Very interesting. I've personally have not used AI other than transcriptions. So can't really speak on that one. Okay, this has been so interesting and so illuminating, and for our listeners, our viewers. Is there anything else that you guys feel that you want to hammer down in messaging, or is there anything else you want to add before we start wrapping this one up?
I'll let Adrian speak, but don't let me forget to we want to post up some of the links and stuff for our content writers so that you can see. I don't know if you've done that already, and I can't see what's going on.
Yeah, I've been putting some stuff in the chat. So yes, in the chat, I uploaded a quick, I shared a link for a video on, it's a Meet Our Copywriter. That's a Meet Our Copywriter, Jennifer. It's Jennifer who's working with Adrian, and you can check out this quick interview we did with her. It's just a little bit to get a little bit of a better understanding of who is the person, not the AI, working with you, working on your team. I also shared a couple of links of examples of content pieces that our dedicated copywriters have done for the GoWP blog. And something that I haven't mentioned is also ghostwriting. Our copywriters have done a lot of ghostwriting, and it has been very, very valuable if you're looking to, if part of your content strategy is link building and getting backlinks in different published blogs to work with your partners. That is a strategy that we've been leveraging a lot is link building through ghostwriting. And they do a lot of that as well. So again, I dropped those links in the chat, and also our case study ebook that they wrote. Again, another way to leverage your content strategy also is writing case studies, because it's essentially free. It's a free ad writing a case study about your customers. Beth asked if they can, your dedicated copywriter can finish your book for you, her book for her. I mean, hey, ghostwriters do it all of the time, so it's truly up to you. Yes, and another ebook I'm going to drop into the chat is it's a resource to the complete guide to outsourcing, work and growing your agency. If you need more information on outsourcing and growing your agency, I think that's pretty much it. Also, we're offering a free strategy call if anyone is interested with Mike. Are you in the side of my screen or the side? With Mike over here. And
with Adrian over here.
dropping that link. Okay, so some interesting comments on AI in the chat as well. Yeah, I agree. You know, AI uses machine learning, so it will get better as you use it. Sure. So do people. we're really high on the people here. So yeah. Thank you all so much for joining, Adrian. Thank you so much for joining in this conversation today, and Mike, thanks so much for facilitating this conversation. Adrian, do you have any final words before we head out?
I mean, if anyone's got questions about CRM or anything like that, happy to help. And you could find me over at groundhog.io. And if you're running an agency and that's a service that you want to offer to your clients, it's something we can probably help with.
I highly recommend check it out for sure. Very cool.
Mike, any final words?
Just again, like you said, if you have any questions or you want to just talk about strategy and how you might be able to use a content writer on your team or a designer or a developer or whatever, feel free to reach out to me. No strings attached. I'm always open to having a conversation. And that's Mike at GoWP.com. Also, that strategy, I think, is GoWP.com/grow. So if you want to schedule that with me, you could do that there as well.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining. And Adrian, I believe you have a question in the chat. Can you drop your email maybe so they can reach out directly? I think Beth has a question related to Groundhog and CRM, and maybe she can reach out directly to you since we're about wrapping up here.
Sure. My email address is adrian@groundhog.io. Feel free to reach out. We're also on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter at GroundhogWP or at Adrian Toby. We have a Facebook group, Groundhog user group on Facebook. You can just search that up, and Facebook's free to join. And we'd be happy to tackle your question there.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all so much for joining today. And thank you everyone who's watching and asked all of your questions. It's been so valuable for us and we really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next time. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And again, thank you so much. This was the GoWP office hours and we'll see you around.